Now it needs a good marker. That'll work. Okay, so we're talking about applying Newton's laws. We'll take them one law at a time. We'll use some examples. Newton's first law, the book for some reason likes to talk about a car crash. I really like the example of riding in the parade, because for most students that, it's like, of course she's going to land a little bit further back, but no, she lands exactly where she took off from, if there's no air resistance. And we'll talk about air resistance later, too. But the book likes to talk about a car crash. So I guess I got to draw a car. Here's a car. Okay, so here's the road. And work with me, work with me. And here is a person in a car. Right? And they're driving on the driving wheel there. Okay? So the driver of the car is, let's say, texting while driving. Not a good thing to do, right? So in just a few moments, something bad is going to happen. Right? But for right now, the car is moving along, right? And the person is moving along, right? Both the car and the person are moving along. And say this person is not on the brakes, is not on the accelerator pedal, it's not accelerating. This car is just in constant motion. Okay? So a moment later, when the vehicle makes contact with the wall, got to make some... What's happening as far as the forces going on?
Is it still moving forward?
The car is, well, was it in motion before?
Yes.
So according to Newton's first law, it wants to stay in motion, right? Is the person in the car, were they moving before?
Yeah.
And they want to stay in motion, right? Okay. So, Maddie, you had your hand up? So the car is feeling the force trying to stop the car, right? And what happens to you? You have the tendency to go flying forward, right? Because you want to stay in motion, right? The occupant of the car wants to stay in motion. Well, the car, for that fact, wants to stay in motion too, but it's being stopped by the wall, right? You're not being stopped by the wall. Hopefully, you're being stopped by what? The airbag or the seat belt, right? Okay, good. So that was pretty obvious. All right. So specifically in your handout, you were supposed to be completing a table comparing what happens without restraint and what happens with restraint. Okay. So. I don't know why they have the 3 rows, but maybe it's like before the crash, during the crash, after the crash. I don't know. I'm going to try to think through it here, and you can follow along with me. So before the crash, the car and driver are in motion. Yeah, I think I would. I don't know. It's yeah. So, and I'm going to try to put this in language that sounds like Newton's laws, because this is what this lesson is all about, applying Newton's laws. Okay? So, a car and driver are in motion, and Newton's first law would say that car and driver in motion would stay in motion, right? Car and driver stay in motion. This would be before the crash. Before. Okay, now, during the crash, there's an external force. Acts on the car. What? D-U-R-I-N-G. See, what? The car and driver. Okay. During the crash, an external force acts on what? The car or the driver? It's really, all right, what's going to hit the wall first? The car, right? All right? So the external force acted on the car. What happens to the driver? Driver stays in motion, right? Oh, an external force acts on the car, I'm sorry. Acts on the car. And without restraint, driver stays in motion. Okay. But if we had a restraint, what happens to the driver? They still lean forward, but they don't go as far, right? Because they're held back. The driver is restrained. That's why we have seat belts. That's what, when I was growing up, it was when we'd go on a long trip, my parents had a station wagon. You remember, it's like an SUV now, but it's a station wagon. It's like a car, but it's got a big covered back end, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. We would play in the back of the car while we were going on a long trip. Yeah, we'd set up a little fort in the back, and have a tea party and all that kind of stuff. With no seatbelts. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, if we had an accident, not only would we have been thrown into the back seat, we'd have been thrown into the front seat, we'd probably been thrown out the windshield. Right? That would have been bad.
Do you guys go fast or just?
This would be going to Florida on the interstate, yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So what if there's a seat in front of you? Like if you're in the back seat and you're facing, there's a seat in front, the driver's seat's in front.
Okay, so let me ask what you're asking a different way. Why don't school buses have seat belts?
Yeah. Why?
Now some of them do. Seat belts, school buses don't have seat belts because it's what they call compartmentalized. The back of the seat in front of you is high and padded. So if you get in a crash, you're going to hit the back of that seat and it's not going to hurt.
You sure?
Well, it might hurt, but they know that they're not going to get kids to wear seat belts in buses. So they built in the protection in the back of the seat in front of you. Okay. Now, I don't know what to put in this third row. Can you think of something that we might put in this third row? What do you think, Joe?
Well, if the driver stays in motion, then the driver would end up eventually stopping on, presumably, if they're in the driver's seat, then they probably would go through the windshield. And then they would be stopped by the pavement.
Okay, driver goes through windshield. I like that. Actually happened to my dad. Yeah, he went through the windshield of a Mustang. Yeah. So before, during, and after. Yeah, that works. Driver is safe.
Should put driver has minor injuries because glass will probably cut.
Yeah, he had little pieces of glass shards like in his skin. And for months later, the glass was like coming to the surface in these little scabs, and you'd pick it, and there'd be a little piece of glass in there.
Ew.
Yeah. What? Crash. My mind works so fast. It works much faster than my marker. Okay, keep working, keep working.